Hare Krishna. Let us understand Bhagavad Gita as it is, written by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Bhagavad Gita has 18 chapters. So let us understand these chapters section by section. Before we begin the discussion, let us offer our prayers to our spiritual master, His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada and Supreme Lord Shri Krishna. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Today we will be understanding the third section of chapter 6 of Bhagavad Gita. Chapter 6 is entitled Sankhya Yoga. The third section is from Shloka number 24 to Shloka number 32. This section is entitled The Perfectional Stage of Ashtanga Yoga. So let us understand this section. Lord Krishna says, Sanishchayena yoktavyo yogo nirvinna chetasa sankalpa prabhavan kamam styaktva sarvana sheshataha manasaivendriyagramam viniyamya samantataha. One should engage oneself in the practice of yoga with undeviating determination and faith. One should abandon without exception all material desires born of false ego and thus control all the senses on all sides by the mind. So here Krishna is describing the higher stages of advancement in Ashtanga Yoga. After practicing the preliminary stages of Yama, Niyama, Asana, Pranayama, then comes Pratyahara, Dharana, Dhyana and Samadhi. So here Krishna is now describing about the higher stage, Pratyahara stage, where one fixes his mind, fixes his attention on the Supreme Lord within the heart, and he has to give up all desires for material enjoyment completely, and he should have a firm faith that he will achieve success, and he has to practice the yoga system with undeviating determination. It is said that God helps the one who helps himself. To advance in spiritual life, we should have faith in the process given in the scriptures. One cannot make any spiritual advancement by following whatever comes to his own mind. We have to follow the authorized process given in the Vedic scriptures. When we follow the process given in the Vedic scriptures under the guidance of an expert spiritual master, then we can be sure about the success. Success is guaranteed, but we have to persevere. We have to continue practicing with patience and with determination. In this regard, there is one example. There was a sparrow which had laid its eggs in the shore of a sea, and the waves came and carried away the egg. So the sparrow went and requested the ocean to give back its eggs, but the ocean neglected its request. So the sparrow was very determined to get back its eggs. So it said that I'll dry you up by removing your water. So the sparrow started picking up drops of water and then putting it aside. So in that way it was determined to somehow get back its lost eggs. So this news spread all over the universe, and Garuda Deva, who is the bird carrier of Lord Vishnu, he got the news. When he heard the news that a sparrow is trying to dry away a vast ocean to get back its eggs, he felt very sympathy and compassion for its own sister bird. So he came down and met the sparrow and then gave it the confidence that don't worry, I will help you. And then Garuda Deva, he threatened the ocean that if you don't return the eggs, I will take up the task of the sparrow and dry you up immediately. So by the threat of Garuda Deva, being afraid of Garuda Deva, ocean immediately gave back the eggs of the sparrow. So this type of determination is needed to practice spiritual life, and as it is said, God helps the one who helps himself. So when we follow the authorized process given in the scriptures under the direction of a spiritual master, success is guaranteed. But we should have faith in the words of Guru and Krishna. We should have faith in the Vedic scriptures, and we have to practice with determination. And then we have to give up all desires of material sense enjoyment. We have to give up all material false egos and situate ourselves in real ego. So Krishna describes those things further. Let us see. So Krishna says, Shanay Shanay Ruparamed Buddhya Dratigrihitaya Atma Samstham Manah Kritva Nakinchit Api Chintayet. Gradually, step by step, with full conviction, one should become situated in trance by means of intelligence, and thus the mind should be fixed on the self alone and should think of nothing else. So this is the stage of Pratyahara, where the mind, our attention, our absorption is all taken back from the external world. Those who are in this material world, due to ignorance, they think that I am this body and they want to enjoy bodily pleasures. So they are always searching for sensual, pleasurable objects, and in that way they keep working and trying to earn those objects, get those objects to enjoy. But an intelligent man knows that I am not the body, I am spirit soul. My pleasure is in serving the Supreme Lord. So he will withdraw himself from all sensual pleasures. He will withdraw himself from searching for sensual, pleasurable objects, and he quietens his mind. He makes his mind peaceful through knowledge, through intelligence, and then fixes his attention on the Supreme Lord in the heart. As I was describing in the previous sections, God is there in the heart of every living being. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Ishvara Sarva Bhutanam Hriddesha Arjuna Tishtati. Krishna says that I am the Supreme Lord and I am situated in the heart of every living being. This is the difference between God and an ordinary soul. Supreme Lord, he can be situated in the heart of every living being. In fact, Supreme Lord is present in every atom. Andantarastha Paramanu Chayantarastham. God is everywhere, he is in every atom. So he can be present in the heart of every living being. But we, spirit soul, we cannot be present in every atom or in the heart of every other living being. We are in this body, we know the pains and pleasures of this body alone. So all these things are described further in other chapters, we will understand. So Krishna is present in the heart of every living being in the form of Paramatma. The form of Paramatma is four-handed form with the beautifully decorated jewels and ornaments, and he holds Shankha, Chakra, Gada, Padma in his four hands. So the yogi should study this form under the guidance of a spiritual master from the Vedic scriptures and then meditate on that form in the heart. So for that, to do that meditation, one should quieten the mind, make the mind peaceful, and give up all endeavors for material sense enjoyment, and then sit in one place quietly and go on meditating. So Krishna is telling, Shanay Shanay Ruparamed Buddhya Dratigrihitaya. With patience, with determination, we have to, with full conviction, we have to situate in trance by the means of intelligence, and the mind should be fixed on the self. Self here refers to the Supreme Lord and should think of nothing else. So further Krishna says, Yato yato nischalati manaschanchalam asthiram tatastatho nyamyetad atmanyeva vasham nayet. From whatever and wherever the mind wanders due to its flickering and unsteady nature, one must certainly withdraw it and bring it back under the control of the self. So the nature of the material mind Krishna is describing, it is flickering and unsteady because it's looking for pleasure. Due to ignorance, we think that we can be happy by bodily sensual enjoyment. Therefore our mind is always flickering and looking for various pleasurable objects. So Krishna is telling, from wherever the mind wanders because of its unsteady and flickering nature, one should withdraw the mind from those external engagements and keep it under his control. This is very easily possible for a bhakti yogi, for a devotee, because he fixes his mind on Lord Krishna and he always thinks of how to serve Krishna and is busy in various engagements. So it is very easy for a bhakti yogi to fix on Krishna because he fixes his mind on how to serve Krishna, and there is variety of services to be done. So naturally mind gets fixed in the service, and then he doesn't feel the difficulty of flickering mind. But in other yoga process, yogis feel the difficulty of controlling the mind. So this is the difference between Ashtanga yoga and Bhakti yoga. Bhakti yoga is very easy process because it is natural for us to think of something. So when we think of loving Krishna and serving Krishna, automatically mind is fixed on the Supreme Lord. So further Krishna says, Prashanta manasam hyenam yoginam sukham uttamam upaiti shanta rajasam brahma bhutam makalmasham. So Krishna says, the yogi whose mind is fixed on me verily attains the highest happiness. By virtue of his identity with Brahman, he is liberated, his mind is peaceful, his passions are quieted, and he is free from sin. So this is the situation of trance where a yogi is free from all material contamination. Because of ignorance, because of being trapped by this material body, we come under the influence of material energy and we forget our real identity. Our real identity is I am part of Krishna. Krishna is Param Brahman, we are Brahman. Brahman means I am spirit soul, I am eternal, I am part of God. That is called Brahman. But we have forgotten that I am Brahman, I am part of God, and we are thinking I am this body. This is due to ignorance. But a yogi who practices this yoga system and makes his mind peaceful, and he withdraws his mind from all external engagements, he fixes his mind, he fixes his consciousness on his real identity as part of God, as spirit soul, which is indestructible. When he sees the Supreme Lord in the heart, he achieves highest happiness. When the soul awakens, soul is a person and soul has senses. Soul also has senses to enjoy. It's when the spiritual senses are awakened, it can see the Supreme Lord in the heart. Unless we awaken our spiritual senses, unless our spiritual eyes are open, we cannot see the Paramatma form in the heart. So the purpose of yoga practice is to awaken our spiritual senses by the methods described in the scriptures. And once the spiritual senses awaken, once the spiritual eyes open, we can see the Supreme Lord beautifully situated in our heart. So a yogi achieves this highest pleasure of seeing the Supreme Lord. He not only sees the Supreme Lord within his heart, he sees the Supreme Lord everywhere. He is present everywhere. He sees the Supreme Lord present in every living being. So these things are nicely described here by Lord Krishna. And for a devotee of Krishna, he sees everything as part of Krishna. So a Ashtanga yogi also, when he sees Paramatma in his heart, he also will become a devotee of the Lord and he will enjoy that loving relationship with the Lord. So further Krishna says, Yunjannevam sadatmanam yogi vigata kalmashaha sukhena brahma samsparsham atyantam sukham ashnute. Steady in the self, being free from all material contamination, the yogi achieves the highest perfectional stage of happiness in touch with the Supreme Consciousness. So very clearly Krishna is describing the highest perfectional stage a yogi achieves when he connects himself, when he sees the Supreme Lord. There is Brahma Samsparsha. When our spiritual eyes are awakened, when our spiritual senses are awakened, then the soul gets the touch of the Supreme Lord. When we touch that Supreme Lord by having darshan, by serving Him, by hearing about Him, by tasting His prasadam, by smelling the fragrance offered to the lotus feet of the Lord, in so many ways the spirit soul can have Brahma Samsparsha. Samsparsha means coming in touch with the Supreme Lord. So in all these ways we can, as a bhakti yogi, we can come in touch with the Supreme Lord. those who practice Ashtanga Yoga, they can awaken their spiritual eyes and see the Supreme Lord. So when they see the Supreme Lord, there is Brahma Samsparsha. Through vision, they are able to see the Lord and they achieve unlimited pleasure, unlimited spiritual pleasure, which will satisfy the soul, which we are all hankering for pleasure. We all want enjoyment. So that enjoyment we can have when we have Brahma Samsparsha. For a devotee who practices Bhakti Yoga, he can have Brahma Samsparsha from the beginning of his practice. He can taste Krishna's prasada. So through taste, the soul enjoys. He gets Brahma Samsparsha. When he sees the beautiful deity form of the Lord, by looking at the beauty of the deities, there is a Brahma Samsparsha through the eyes. It goes and touches the soul. So when he hears the holy name chanted, when we chant the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Even though this vibration is produced on our material tongue and the vibration is material, spiritual sound also enters into our material vibrations, and when we hear that spiritual sound, we get Brahma Samsparsha. The soul hears the holy name, spiritual sound, and it gets unlimited transcendental bliss. So in this way, a yogi also, he gets this Brahma Samsparsha, and then Sukhena Brahma Samsparsham Atyantam Sukham Ashnute. He enjoys unlimited spiritual happiness. This is the highest perfectional stage of yoga system. So this is possible for anyone to achieve. In Satya Yoga, it was easy to practice this Ashtanga Yoga, but in Kali Yoga, it is difficult for common mass of people to practice Ashtanga Yoga because our bodies are all very weak and we don't live that long. In Satya Yoga, people were living for 1 lakh years, so they could spend lots of time in Ashtanga Yoga system. But in Kali Yuga, our duration of life is very short, our bodies are all very weak, we cannot practice severe tapasya. So for us, the method of meditation is hearing the holy name of the Lord. When we hear the holy name of the Lord, we hear the spiritual sound vibration, and that first of all purifies our mind from all dirty contaminations of material enjoyment, and then it awakens the spiritual senses of the soul. And then when our spiritual senses are awakened, we can see the Lord face to face, we can talk to Him, we can dance with Him, we can sing with Him, we can eat with Him, we will enter into the spiritual world, and in our loving relationship with the Supreme Lord, we enjoy unlimited spiritual happiness, which Krishna is telling here, Atyantam Sukham Ashnute. So the ultimate goal of any yoga is to return back to the spiritual world and enjoy with the Supreme Lord. So a Ashtanga Yogi also can ultimately achieve this stage of Brahma Samsparsha and entering into the spiritual world. So further Krishna says, Sarva bhutastam atmanam sarva bhutani chatmani ikshate yoga yuktatma sarvatra samadarshanaha. A true yogi observes me in all living beings and also sees every being in me. Indeed, the self-realized man sees me everywhere. So as I was explaining, the Supreme Lord is there in every atom. He is present in the heart of every living being. So a soul, an enlightened soul, he knows this. And he sees that the Supreme Lord is there in everyone's heart. And he loves every living being because every living being is part of the Supreme Lord. He tries to help everyone to become a devotee. So when we compare a Ashtanga Yogi and a Bhakti Yogi, Ashtanga Yogi, he goes to a secluded place and practices all the different stages of Ashtanga Yoga for his own personal innovation, for his own personal spiritual progress. But in the case of a Bhakti Yogi, he not only practices Bhakti Yoga for his own purification and his own spiritual elevation, he makes everyone, he wants every living being also to become devotees. Therefore, the Lord is more pleased by a Bhakti Yogi because a Bhakti Yogi is trying to enlighten as many souls as possible, because the souls are all suffering in this material world due to forgetfulness of their relationship with the Supreme Lord. So Krishna says in the end of the Bhagavad Gita that Acha tasman manushyeshu kaschin me priyakrittamaha bhavita nacha me tasmad anyaha priyataro bhuvi. Those who explain this message of Bhagavad Gita to others, Krishna says he is very, very dear to me and there is no one more dearer than him. So becoming most dear servant of Krishna is the actual perfection of yoga, which a Bhakti Yogi achieves. So in that sense, actually, Bhakti Yogi is the topmost yogi. So we all can become dear devotee of Krishna by first of all understanding Bhagavad Gita ourselves under the expert guidance of our spiritual master, and then we can also teach this to other innocent people and make them also devotees of Krishna. So further Krishna says, Yo mam pashyati sarvatra sarvam cha mai pashyati tasyaham na pranashyami sacha me na pranashyati. For one who sees me everywhere and sees everything in me, I am never lost, nor is he ever lost to me. So this is the vision of an enlightened soul. He sees God everywhere and he is in touch with the Lord always. So therefore, the Lord also is in touch with him and he takes special care of such a devotee. Those who are connected to the Supreme Lord, Krishna says that I will take care of all their requirements. So Krishna says, Ananyas chintayanto mam ye jana paryupasate tesham nityabhiyuktanam yogakshemam vahamyaham. Those who always think of Krishna and always serve Krishna, Krishna personally takes care of all their needs. So this is the loving relationship between a pure devotee and Lord Krishna. So further Krishna says, Sarva bhuta sthitam yo mam bhajati ekatvam astitaha sarvata varthamanopi sayogi mai vartate. The yogi who knows that I and the super soul within all creatures are one, worships me and remains always in me in all circumstances. So as I was explaining, the super soul, the Paramatma in the heart of every living being, is an expansion of Lord Krishna. Krishna is the Adi Purusha, is the Supreme Lord from whom everything is coming. All Vishnu Tattvas, all the avatars of Lord Vishnu, they are coming originally from the Supreme Lord Krishna. Just like sun is in one place, but it is seen in different places by different people, even though it is situated in one place. So in the same way, Krishna is situated in Goloka, in his original spiritual planet. But by his own energy, by his own expansions, he is present everywhere. He can expand himself in the heart of every living being also. So in that way, a yogi, he can see the Supreme Lord present in every living being. He can see the Lord everywhere, and the Lord also is very pleased with such a devotee. And in this way, there is a loving relationship between the devotee and the Supreme Lord. So further, Krishna says, Atmaupamyena sarvatra samam pashyati Arjuna sukham va yadi va dukkham sayogi paramo mataha. He is a perfect yogi who, by comparison to his own self, sees the true equality of all beings, both in their happiness and distress, O Arjuna. So here is the position of a yogi who reaches the highest spiritual position. He sees that every living being is equal in quality, even though it may be those souls may be situated in different bodies. Some souls may be in a degraded form like a dog or a hog or insects or trees. There are souls in human bodies, in birds' bodies, in animal bodies. There are different varieties of species. Even though there are differences in bodies, but the spirit soul in every body is same. And because of ignorance and because of being trapped in this body, all living beings in this material world are suffering the same kind of miseries: birth, death and old age and disease. These are the four miseries which every living being has to suffer in this material world. So in any condition, a yogi, he knows that every living being is part of Krishna just like him, and he sees Paramatma also accompanying every living being just to fulfill the desires of the living being. So in this way, he achieves the highest transcendental position of meditating on the Supreme Lord and his expansions in the entire creation. And then by having darshan of the Supreme Lord, he enjoys unlimited transcendental pleasure. So this is the highest perfectional stage of Ashtanga Yoga. Next, what happens, we will understand in the next section. Hare Krishna.